Welcome to the Restoration Pros Unplugged podcast. In each episode, we're going to bring you insightful interviews and discussions with top restoration industry leaders. We're also going to delve into their business, the strategies that made them successful, and most importantly, the valuable lessons they learned along the way. I'm your host, Clinton James. I'm also the Chief Marketing Officer at Water Restoration Marketing. We're a digital marketing agency dedicated to helping restoration companies nationwide secure more high-value water jobs. Now, this show, it aims to provide you with the knowledge and tools you need to excel in the restoration industry. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. All right, and hello, everybody. Welcome to the Restoration Pros Unplugged podcast. I'm your host, Clinton James, also the Chief Marketing Officer with Water Restoration Marketing. Today is a truly special day for the podcast. Today, I introduce everybody to the wizard behind the curtain at my digital marketing agency, Terrence Bennett. Terrence, thanks for being on today.
Hey, thanks for having me. Here I am. I'm coming out of my PPC closet and letting everybody get a look at it.
All right. So for the audience, Terrence is one of the most accomplished and experienced Google ad experts in the country. And he's continued to kind of get better at his craft as the director of ads for my agency, Water Restoration Marketing, for the last, 4.5 years, Terrence?
4 years, 4.5, yeah.
So I wanted to have you on today to give our audience some insight on how our agency continues to really do well with PPC, despite some of the really big changes and challenges that Google's made for us recently. So before we do all that, though, tell us a little bit about your career path and how you started getting into digital marketing.
All right. Well, I'm an unusual, some have called me a unicorn. I'm kind of an unusual person. My undergraduate degree is actually in accounting, so I'm very comfortable with analysis and numbers and spreadsheets, obviously. Okay. I have a master's in counseling, actually. So even from the psychological marketing standpoint, I feel like I'm kind of unique in that I bring both of those things to bear. Awesome. And the thing that actually brought me to digital marketing was sort of two things. One, my love of tap dancing. I have a hobby that I wanted to build a business around. And two, my love of my son. My older son was born in 2003. And I, as many parents do, once I knew my wife and I had a baby on the way, I immediately started thinking, I got to make some more money. I got to start a side hustle. I have to provide for this person who's going to rely on me. And so way back in 2003, I had my first idea for a website, and I found out about Google AdWords because at the time, the question was, how do you find people? How do you find your audience online? This is before Facebook and Instagram and all that. And so I went out, found out about Google AdWords, put in my credit card, and promptly paid what I call the Google tax, which is where you don't know what you're doing and you just pay Google a whole bunch of money for a whole lot of clicks and you don't get anything out of it and you just feel like a big failure. That was me. That's how I got started.
Well, I'm sure our clients are appreciative that you used your money to pay the Google ad tax instead of using their ad spend to pay that ad tax. So
absolutely.
Right before joining Water Restoration Marketing, tell me a little bit about what you were doing then.
Well, starting in 2008, I started consulting. I never really got away from Google AdWords. I was playing around with it for myself. I was reading a lot of books, a lot of Perry Marshall stuff at the time. And I learned a lot about, I used to sit around in coffee shops and just have my nose in these books. And so in 2008, I started contracting, working freelancing independently on, it was elance.com at the time, which doesn't exist anymore. And I went out and started offering my services to individuals. Then I realized over time that my work was more steady if I became sort of like a behind the scenes white label provider for agencies. Because then if I land one agency, they just keep giving me accounts. And so I would probably work 70, 80 niches at a time. And that actually kind of started being difficult to manage. It was too much. There were times where I'd be working late into the night and getting up early because I really believe in treating people's marketing campaigns as though they're my own is part of my philosophy. I look at every campaign as though it's mine, every dollar as though it's my dollar. And so spreading myself too thin was a problem. And eventually I connected with a guy who had a single industry agency. This is back in 2015, focused on appliance repair. And it had grown to a point, I believe he was at like 30 clients. And he was at a place where he couldn't do it all, as many agency owners reach. And so he and I knew each other from an event. He liked the way I talked about PPC. He liked my philosophy. And so he brought me on board. I was able to relinquish like the 4 other agencies I was working for and help him manage and grow his portfolio from 30-something accounts all the way up to 100. And in that process, I learned a lot about scaling and handling like portfolios of single industry accounts, how to learn from one and apply the changes overall. And he and I worked together for about 5 years. And that was appliance repair, which was, in hindsight, a much easier industry to operate in than is water restoration.
Let's talk about that for a second, because you've managed campaigns in a series of different industries, right? Can you talk specifically about how managing campaigns in like the home service space differs from some of the other campaigns that you've run in the past?
Well, home services in general is a great Google Ads, like this kind of on-demand marketing where you're targeting people who have a problem. Like Google Ads really shines there. Like it's much easier to sell a service you can come out and deliver today when somebody needs it, as opposed to like a boat, right? A boat, right. Or somebody, they want a boat, but the buying process takes forever. So Google Ads, this type of advertising, search advertising, is uniquely positioned because you get people who need you right now. Like they have, they're itching for help. They just want help right away. And so as long as you can get in front of that person and say the thing to them that they need to hear to know that you can solve this problem that they're experiencing right now, they can call. They'll call right away. They're happy to do it. It's a lot easier actually in many ways than e-commerce or other things. Now that said, within the world of home services, there's all kinds of services. And some of them don't really have that hair on fire kind of urgency behind them. And some do. And water restoration is interesting. I've learned that a lot of times people do have a hair on fire problem. But the challenge is they don't know what water restoration is. They don't know. Most people, before I started working for this company, if water was coming out of my wall, I need a plumber. That's what I think. I need a plumber. I'm going to go online and say I got a water leak. People, I would not even have the vocabulary to say I need a water damage restoration company or I need a water removal company. No, I need a plumber. And so there's that little bit of a disconnect that makes this industry a little more challenging because the people, your prospects, as you water restoration marketing folks, your prospects don't necessarily know about you, and they happily don't know about you because who wants to deal with this problem? And so that's kind of the thing that has made it uniquely interesting and challenging. I like a challenge. And this is also why not many PPC agencies work in water restoration, because they get in hoping that it's like appliance repair, and it's not. It takes a lot more work to find the right people and connect them with the right companies.
100%. And I think that really allows our agency to become very good at what we do, right? We have a singular focus. Our campaigns are targeted specifically for one thing and one thing only. And that's to get people, homeowners, business owners that have some kind of emergency water damage, to call our clients, right, in that local market there. Now, even though we've got 7+ years of experience, we worked with hundreds of restoration companies across the country, we are not above challenges. So earlier this year, with some of our PPC campaigns, we saw some challenges where the campaigns were just not performing at the levels that we had historically seen or the expectations that we want to set for our clients. So can you tell us a little bit about those challenges, and specifically, what did Google do that created some of these challenges for us?
Oh my goodness, yes. Well, the landscape is dynamic. It's always changing. And Google does a pretty good job of making announcements about things that are changing, but not really giving you the full story, or in many cases, not fully explaining what they're doing and just sort of shifting things behind the scenes. I mean, they have their shareholders, they have their own motivations, and they have their own, I would say their own, in some cases, self-serving best practices.
Wait, before you get off that talking point, we need to remind the audience, like, Google is not in the business of getting you jobs. Google is in the business of selling you clicks. So traditionally, the data that they are providing your agency with, it's all geared towards getting you to spend a bunch of money on a bunch of words that may or may not ultimately end up generating business for you, right?
Absolutely.
All right. So tell us a little bit about kind of the challenges that we faced and some of the big takeaways that you had from those challenges earlier this year.
All right. So I had promised to Clinton, I'm going to try not to nerd out on y'all here because it's very easy for me to go into the weeds on this stuff. Like I've literally spent the last 4.5 years sitting in this chair looking at water restoration campaigns every day, but on most weekends. And sometimes I'm even guilty of doing it on weekends. So I swim in this stuff, and it's very easy for me to fall into speaking the foreign digital marketing language. But just to give you one example, when you go into a Google Ads campaign at this time, there are 3 match types. That's as of September 2024.
Okay.
There's broad match, phrase match, and exact match. These are different ways of telling Google what you want to target. So if I go into an account and I just type in water restoration and I don't do anything else to that word, that tells Google, show me for anything you think is related to these 2 words. And that gets wild, right?
Right.
Bottom line, pro tip, just don't use broad match. Yes, some of you PPC nerds out there saying, yeah, but if you're using automation, listen, for most people, terrible idea, especially when you're targeting a niche.
All right, everybody, listen. No broad match. All right, great.
No broad match. Just don't. Just highlight that. No broad. Just don't do it. We can get into the weeds of why later. Yes, it has some value. Please don't spam me about this. Some people are very passionate about broad match. For you guys watching this, no broad match. Now, traditionally, phrase match, which is the next more restricted version, of keyword targeting, was where you could say, hey, Google, you can show me for things that contain these 2 words. So if the search contains water restoration company, even if there are other words around it, like water restoration company in my area, you can show me for that, but it has to keep those 3 words. And back in the day, it actually meant in that order. So water restoration companies would not show up when people typed in, it wouldn't trigger an ad for when people typed in companies that do water restoration. That's how a hype phrase match used to be. And so we used to love it. Then there was exact match, where you would say to Google, hey, you know what? I only want you to show me when the search is water restoration a company. That's the only time I want to show up. Even if they have near me on it, don't trigger on this keyword, trigger it on a different one. That's what it used to be. And over the last couple of years, Google has been very vocal about how with machine learning, they are becoming a little more, I would say, I wouldn't say liberal, but they with machine learning, the machine can understand your keywords semantically. So we're going to use 1 million signals to target things that are related. This is the reality. The reality is exact match doesn't quite exist anymore. If you type in water restoration company, Google might show you for companies that do water restoration company near me, water damage company, water removal experts, anything that they think is related. That's what they do now. They did this very quietly. So for somebody that's been around as long as me, remember, I've been looking at these campaigns for 20 plus years, exact match has always been exact match. Also, phrase match became semantic. So the phrase match keyword restoration company, and this will really frustrate you, they would look at that and say, oh, that means that this person wants to show up when people are searching for water restoration company. So if you're restoration 1 and somebody types in PureClean, we'll trigger your ad for that on phrase match. So now negative keywords became even more important. Now you may say, Terrence, but how could they get away with this? Well, they're Google. They set the rules, and they combine this with one other thing that has been in play for a while and has been getting worse, which is a keyword is used to target searches, right? Water restoration, you tell Google, show me for ads for searches related to this. There's a separate report called the search term report that ostensibly shows you what search term your ads showed up for. And years ago, they would show you 70, 80% of the actual searches that you targeted. Now that number is routinely around 30 or 40%. So even on water restoration company, sometimes I can only see half of the actual search terms. And on phrase match, it's worse. It's like 20% sometimes.
So wait, we have to take Google's word for it that is actually this. Okay.
That is relevant. So here I am managing 100 different accounts, and the performance starts to drop. I'm targeting the same keywords. We're running the same ads. I'm using the same strategies. I'm using the same adjustments. I'm on the same optimization schedule. Conversion rates are dropping. The pages aren't changing. What's going on? I look at the search term report, and all the search terms I see, with a few exceptions, look pretty relevant and right on board. And then I realize more search terms than ever are not visible to me. And that had ramifications for how I construct my campaigns, how I bid, how I prioritize various keywords, and even what keywords I decide to target, including how I manage match types. So it took a series of months for us to kind of pull this out. Right now, I say it as a charming little anecdote, but it was a very challenging and painful time for us because while many accounts still worked very well, we experienced some significant headwinds. And for a period of time, nothing we were seeing was telling us what the problem was, because everything Google showed me made it look like, well, you're doing what you always did. You're just having bad luck. And that's how it felt. And now we're on the other side of that. It took months. And I encourage anyone who was with us during that time and got less than stellar results, we have figured that out. If you come back to us, you are not, they said you can't step into the same river twice. Ever since you've been gone, we've been working relentlessly and tirelessly to figure these things out and to improve what we're doing. And we have succeeded. Just putting it out.
Our new clients, old clients, everybody that stuck with us through that tough period are very happy with the results that they're currently getting on their campaigns. Yes. But we don't manage our entire audience. We don't manage everybody's campaigns, right? There are a lot of do-it-yourselfers, if you will. Mm-hmm. So aside from knowing the difference between broad match, phrase match, exact match, and how that has changed, are there any like big takeaways, like one or two pieces of advice that you would give to somebody, a restoration company owner that's managing his own campaign in-house? Anything that he should be on the lookout to make sure that he's getting the most out of his ad spend?
Yeah, well, okay. How can I say this? Again, I'm trying not to nerd out. The truth is we've lost a lot of visibility. And it's not coming back. More and more things are kind of going Google in-house, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. I would say that you still have the advantage of being able to use data to sort of see into places that you normally can't see. If you're a person who's comfortable with spreadsheets, use spreadsheets, pull that data into a Google sheet, analyze by match type, analyze by device, analyze by keyword, analyze by search term based on what you have. And look for those places where there are inefficiencies. And you'll be able to kind of see indirectly where Google is hiding things from you and where the money is being wasted. If you're not familiar with spreadsheets and Google Sheets, get familiar with it. There's a reason that people like me use Google Sheets or Microsoft Excel all the time. All you got to learn is one thing a week. And by this time next year, you'll be a complete expert compared to where you are now. Don't get intimidated. My grandfather used to tell me that even if you don't know anything about a car, you lift up the hood sometimes and just look under it. See if you notice it. Is anything frayed? Is anything leaking? Is anything spatter? Just take your reports, put them in a Google Sheet, and just look at them. Set egg timer, 5 minutes. You'll be surprised what you'll notice just by looking at things and being curious. I would also say that Google is putting a big emphasis on machine learning. A lot of Google reps, and if you get calls from Google reps, I caution you against implementing anything they say. If you have a campaign that is working well, listen, but don't trust, and definitely verify, because they have their own incentives. They even call our clients sometimes. I spend all my time dodging Google reps, and I guarantee you that if there is value in me talking to them, I would talk to them every day.
Sure.
With machine learning, they're really big on that, and it is good. There are ways to implement it, but I will say that machine learning works best when paired with some expertise and knowledge of your industry. And at a minimum, just don't use broad match. You can save so much time. Just stay away from that regardless of what they tell you, because there are very specific scenarios where that works. The last thing I would say is if you do use automations, don't be afraid to put limits on it. Here's a quick example. If you are out there and you're using a max conversions strategy, for example, you might think that the only way to control it is to enter a target CPA. I know I'm nerding out a little.
That's all right. That's all right.
But Google doesn't necessarily make this obvious. but there is a place. And in fact, let me look on my computer so I can tell you right. If you're in your account and you go to tools, budgeted bidding, there's a place there called bid strategies as well. And you can set up a shared bid strategy for your account, add your campaign to it. And if you give it a target CPA, there are some additional options in there, such as you can set a maximum bid. So a lot of times people get scared away from max conversions because they're like, I tried it and it bid like $200 a click. Yeah, it'll do that. And then the campaign level settings, there's no way to limit the max bid. But if you just go to tools, budgets and bidding, bid strategies, and then you create your shared strategy there. If you put in the TCPA and you expand it down, there's a couple of options in there where you can say, please don't bid more than such and such.
Right.
And that can be a nice way to ease your way in. Later on, once the system is doing good, the machine learning knows what it's doing, you can remove that. Okay. But that's a way to kind of to training wheel yourself in. So don't be afraid to place some limits, and don't be afraid to reach out to water restoration marketing if you need some tips.
Hey, that's it right there. Like if you were running a successful restoration company, the last thing you should be doing is investing your time learning and managing your own pay-per-click campaign, especially when there's an agency like ours where this is literally all we do, folks, is manage PPC campaigns specifically for water restoration companies. Now, we're not the only agency out there that manages PPC campaigns, and I talk to clients all the time that have had horrible experiences using other agencies that just don't have the experience and don't put in the work to learn how to properly manage PPC campaigns for water restoration companies. So can you give our audience that may be working with another agency, they're not exactly ecstatic about the results they're getting, what are the signs? What should they be looking out for that should tell them, hey, the agency that you're working with, whoever's doing your PPC, they're a dud?
Okay, first of all, I'll tell you, as somebody who's worked in all kinds of industries, myself, that it is absolutely imperative that they have some experience in this niche, that they know what they're getting into, that they know how expensive the CPCs can be. They need to be able to show you some results and some success in this niche. I don't care what you did for dentists or plastic surgeons or appliance repair companies or HVAC people. I want to know, if I was going out to hire somebody, I want to know, if I was hiring the agency to do this, that they have been successful in this niche, and that they can provide a reference or a case study to show that, where they can direct you to somebody who is restoration something, restoration and reconstruction something. Or without that, I don't really trust them, because it's easy to say, yeah, but I know PPC and fundamentals. I worked very hard to understand this industry. I came aboard in 2020, and it was all I did all day during the pandemic was sit here and try to figure things out. And thankfully, I had Clinton and the rest of the team where I could go to them and say, what is this phrase? Is this relevant? Because there are certain terms that are just, you wouldn't understand them unless you're in the industry. And I came in with a ton of PPC knowledge, and I had a team of people who knew the industry, and I encouraged them. When in doubt, look, ask them to explain their strategy. Ask them to explain their philosophy. One of the things that I like to say is kind of a shorthand to know if somebody is doing the right thing for you, if you've already hired them, is how well did they manage your budget? What is their budget management philosophy? Like, did they discuss it at all? Like our philosophy is we spread your budget out evenly across the month, and typically you're not going to spend more than 10 to 20% more than your allocated budget. And we only do that during certain strategic situations, blah, blah, blah. We have a whole thing, and we never, ever, I won't say never, but let's say 99.97% of the time, we don't have any issues managing budget. Sometimes we may come under, but you shouldn't give somebody a $2,000 budget and come in, and a week and a half later, they spent $2,000.
Right.
And you had to let them know. So sometimes, while a lot of agencies are very, very focused on results and get things going, budget management can kind of let you know, like, do they have a system? How is your budget being managed? Can they tell you? Like, are they in line? And last but not least, if I had to give one more quick here, conversion tracking. Are they tracking conversions? Can they explain it to you? Are they tracking what conversion actually has value? Like if they tell you, we track, every call is a conversion. Well, you're going to have some repeat callers. You're going to have some calls that are for the wrong service? Do they consider that? Are they aware of the differences in quality, or are they just trying to make your phone ring without regards to the quality? Or are they not tracking it at all and just believing like, oh yeah, don't worry, we'll drive traffic to your site and you'll see more calls somewhere? No, they need to be tracking conversions, and they should be able to tell you exactly what and when they did what they did. We even go an extra step. We actually listen to the calls and evaluate them and score them internally, and that information gets fed back to me. So I can go back and say, well, for this account in this area, this term doesn't seem to be turning into anything. And we will proactively reach out. Last tip, do they proactively reach out? Not just on a monthly report where they show you your click-through rate and your cost per click and your impression share. Do they proactively reach out and tell you things? Do they ask you things? Like, hey, I noticed you said that you were okay with getting this kind of call, but then you got the call and you turned it down. What's up with that? These are the kinds of things you're looking for. You want like a doctor's level of care for your marketing dollars.
100%. And when it comes to conversion tracking, not only does our team listen to the calls, but we also have scheduled check-in calls with our clients to find out, because we can listen to a call. We'll know if it's a lead. We know potentially if an address is exchanged that leads to an on-site visit, but we still don't know when that project manager, that technician shows up at that house that has water damage from one of our leads. Did they actually turn it into a job? So we want to know that too, right? Because it's not about generating 50 or 100 phone calls a month. It's about getting them the calls that we've learned from their experience that they're going to actually turn into jobs there. So another thing that we have really ramped up recently is doing a lot of landing page testing. So can you talk a little bit about how important landing page optimizations are for our PPC campaigns?
Oh my goodness. Well, if I'm Superman, the landing page can be my kryptonite, or it could be my yellow sun.
There you go.
Fellow nerds out there, you know what I'm talking about.
I do.
You could have the best PPC person in the world, and if your landing page doesn't convert, you may just kill your PPC person, because if they try hard like I do, they will kill themselves trying to make it work. On the other hand, you have a great landing page and a great offer. You can sometimes have great results with a mediocre campaign that I might laugh at if I saw it. Now, if you pair a great page with a great person, or a great company, or a great agency, y'all know what I'm getting at, then you really to the moon. But the landing page is sort of, it's like the unsung hero. It's the most overlooked thing. When we started to experience headwinds earlier this year, one of the first things we started doing was testing and diversifying our landing page, because while we were figuring out all the search term and keyword stuff, we also wanted to make sure that we had multiple templates and versions of pages that we knew could work for our clients. So if we found that something wasn't working in the area, we could make a switch, do some split testing. Always be testing the landing page, even though there are a million bells and whistles inside of a Google Ads account. But the landing page, sometimes just changing the headline or just changing the offer or changing a button color can lead to 2 or 3 more jobs a month, just like that. So don't ignore your pages. And we absolutely are not.
That's not an exaggeration. At any given time, we're testing 6 different versions of our landing page with multiple variations for each one of them, depending on whether it's a desktop, mobile device, or tablet there. So, Terrence, I want to thank you for coming on here. I appreciate our opportunity to nerd out a little bit. Hopefully for our audience, it wasn't too nerdy for them. But this is the quality of work that we put into making sure that our campaigns are successful for our clients. And if you don't have the right nerd behind the curtain, then that person is going to lose you a lot of money in terms of wasted ad spend there. So Terrence, I want to thank you for giving us some time, sharing your wealth of knowledge on PPC campaigns. For the audience, thank you guys for sticking around. If you like what you heard today, please subscribe to the Restoration Pros Unplugged podcast. We will be back with more interviews, more insights, more entrepreneurs, more professionals in the restoration industry. And until then, storm season is around the corner, so stay safe, stay dry, and stay busy. Thank you for listening to the Restoration Pros Unplugged podcast. If you like what you heard today, be sure to subscribe, share, and also leave us a 5-star review. We'll be back with more interviews and discussions with restoration industry leaders really soon. In the meantime, if you're a restoration company looking to add more high-value water jobs, you can reach me and my team at marketing.Net. Again, that's marketing.Net. I look forward to hearing from you soon.